Hey guys, it's Sean from Kai Coffee and welcome to the Meet the Maker series. Happy Mother's Day to all you moms out there. Really excited that you're with us today and hope you enjoy the coffee. So you should have received a package by now with some goodies in there, and you're gonna have two different coffees. One is our Ethiopian Guji Arsasala. This is our probably best, highest selling single origin that we do. It's a 90-point coffee from Ethiopia. And it's a natural processed coffee, which means it's gonna have a lot of fruitiness to it. So you should get sort of blueberries, strawberry, cherry, acai, those type of flavors with a nice chocolatey undertone. The second coffee you're gonna get is our main and most popular blend, which is the Aero blend. A lot of cafes use this one. It's a 50-50 split of Colombia and Brazil. And it's got really kind of caramel, smooth, creamy, some milk chocolatey tones, and works really well with milk or black. So those are the two coffees you're gonna get. Just wanted to spend a couple of seconds telling you a little bit about our company. Kai Coffee was founded about 10 years ago by my wife and I. We both have a background in nonprofit work, going all over the world doing humanitarian aid and working with orphanages and kids and different churches and things. About 10 years ago, when we came back to Australia, we decided that it would be really cool to try to start a business that would fund orphanages and feeding kids in Uganda, Africa. So my best friend growing up had started some different orphanages there, and so we were like, man, it'd be really cool if we could create a product which would be used and sold without having to raise funds, but it could just give a portion of those profits away. And so that's how Kai Coffee was born. It was sort of an experiment, which then turned into an actual business. And then here we are 10 years later. We wholesale to about 80 different cafes, small businesses around Australia, as well as in our own roastery and online to the public. So today, one thing that we'd like to just sort of, I guess, distinguish ourselves from other coffee roasters is we are a true specialty coffee roastery. So specialty coffee has to do with a couple of things. Number one is sort of traceability of the coffee and knowing where it comes from. Obviously, our background and what we are about as a brand, transparency and ethically sourced beans is really important to us. So one way that we found that sort of eliminates a lot of abuse and some of the horrible things that you might hear about in the coffee industry trade is buying really high-end coffees. So there are, the way that coffee gets traded on the market is a scale from 0 to 100, and basically there are men and women who go through a course called a Q Graders course. If they pass that, they're able to go to these farms and cup coffee, and then they score them on a scale of 0 to 100. Specialty coffee's entry point is 80 points out of 100 and above. Here at Kai Coffee, we only buy coffees that are 84 points and above. Then that said, all of our single origins are at 85 points and above. And what that kind of means is it puts us in the top 5% of the world's coffee in general. So coffee, as you may or may not know, is the world's second most traded commodity next to oil. So there's a lot of coffee going out there, and we are only buying from that sort of top 5%. A lot of these farms are really famous worldwide. Our Brazilian farm, for example, is on Twitter. We can tweet at them, and they can tweet at us. You can check in on some of these farms with live streaming cameras and all kinds of kind of cool things. But we look for things that are really interesting, have a really complicated flavor profiles, and then our job as roasters is to try to take what our farmers have done an excellent job creating and growing and try to bring out all of the amazing intricacies of that coffee in our roasting style. And so we'll take a coffee that's new to us and we'll roast it about 3 or 4 different ways. We'll cup it as a team and sort of decide what we think is the best way to portray that coffee to the public that's going to do the best justice to what that farmer has worked so hard to produce. And then we bag it up and we sell it. So these new bags are kind of fun. Our new branding just came out, and it's sort of an artist series where we wanted to have each of our different coffees to have its own special design. We love art, we love music and coffee. They kind of all go well together. So we're hired some local artists to create these designs. I wanted to tell you about this one particularly because it has to do with the foundation of coffee and sort of where it started. Ethiopia is actually the country where coffee was originally discovered. And it's kind of a fun story. It's sort of a bit of a myth, but it could also be true. It's been passed down for hundreds of years now, so we're going to go with the fact that it must be true. But a goat farmer in Ethiopia kept noticing his goats were eating from this one particular tree, and then they were kind of getting hyper and running around. And so one day he wanders over, and as the story goes, he grabbed some of the fruit of this tree and he took it down to a local monastery, handed it to them and said, "What is this?" And they tasted it and they said, "This is the devil's fruit," and they threw it into a fire. And that was as the aroma was going up to the sky, they all started to look around at each other and go, "That's actually really good." And that's the first time coffee was ever roasted, or so the legend goes. And from there it evolved and progressed. It eventually made its way into Mecca and was considered a Muslim holy drink. And then from there was a man by the name of Baba Budan, who was a Muslim who snuck 7 coffee saplings out of Mecca on his back under the penalty would have been death, actually, if they would have caught him. But he snuck 7 coffee varietals out of Mecca and sold them to the market, and now coffee is traded globally. That is actually a very true story. So that's sort of the little background, but in honor of our first coffee drinkers, we have the goats eating coffee cherries. So this morning we have a great video made for you that's on how to prepare the 2 coffees that we've got for you. Our head barista, Matt, is going to take it from here and show you how to make a plunger. If you don't have one, they're quite easy to get at any grocery store, etc. There's expensive ones and good brands, and then, by and large, most of them will do a pretty decent job for you. But what you'll need for this exercise is a scale, some hot water, and a plunger, and then I'll hand it over to Matt and he will teach you how to make one. In the meantime, thanks so much for joining us. Hope this was great. If you have any questions, feel free to ask, and we'd love to answer anything that you have. Have a great Mother's Day. See you later.